She said I'm ruining her dreams because I won't sign this contract. It was a quiet evening when the email arrived, slipping into the spam folder unnoticed. My wife Lena was in her streaming room upstairs, her cheerful voice drifting faintly through the house as she engaged with her audience. I didn't interrupt her anymore. I knew better. Streaming was her world now, and I respected that. The email didn't catch my eye at first. It was one of those messages that seemed like spam, poorly worded, filled with unnecessary urgency. I was cleaning out my inbox when I spotted it. Subject: immediate attention required. Important legal matter. Curiosity piqued, I opened it. The sender claimed to represent my wife's talent agency, requesting my response. At first, I thought it was a phishing attempt. Why would her agency email me? I skimmed through it, my brow furrowing. Dear husband, as part of Lena's continued collaboration with our agency, we require you to sign the attached agreement to formalize certain boundaries. Please respond promptly to confirm receipt. Attached to the email was a legal document. I glanced at it briefly, but the language was dense and overwhelming. I closed it, shaking my head. It must have been a mistake. By the time Lena came downstairs, her hair damp from a quick post-stream shower, I had mostly forgotten about the email. How was the stream? I asked, setting a plate of food on the table for her. Good, she said, smiling faintly. The collab with Yuki went well. The chat was crazy tonight. She seemed happy, and I didn't want to dampen her mood. I decided not to bring up the email just yet. A week passed before another email arrived. This time, it landed in my primary inbox, marked urgent. The same request, the same legal document. This time, I decided to read it more thoroughly. The agreement was startling. It demanded that I refrain from publicly acknowledging our relationship, both online and offline. I was to avoid any mention of her real name or her Vtuber identity in any capacity. If we were to divorce or separate, I would be legally barred from discussing it. I stared at the screen, dumbfounded. Was this real? I glanced upstairs, where Lena was preparing for another stream. This was her dream, her passion. Did she know about this? When she came downstairs that night, I broached the subject carefully. Lena, I've got an email from your agency. They want me to sign something. She froze for a moment, then continued pouring herself a glass of water. Oh, yeah, they mentioned that. It's just a formality, nothing serious. It doesn't feel like a formality, I said, pulling up the document on my phone. They want me to sign a legal agreement that says I can't acknowledge I'm your husband. Ever. Online or in person. Lena sighed, setting the glass down. It's how this industry works. Fans want the illusion. They don't like it when creators have real lives. It's stupid, but it's part of the job. I frowned. Do they think I'm going to dox you or something? No, of course not, she said quickly. But this is just to protect everyone. To keep things smooth. Please, just sign it. It's not a big deal. It feels like a big deal, I said. The conversation ended with a tense silence. The document lingered in my mind over the next few days, gnawing at me every time I thought about it. Lena's reaction had been dismissive, brushing aside my concerns like they didn't matter. But this wasn't just about her career. It was about our relationship, our life together. I decided to seek professional advice. Are you serious? My lawyer, Michelle, said, smirking as she leafed through the pages of the agreement in her office. This reads like something out of a bad sitcom. I leaned forward, feeling both relieved and frustrated. So, I'm not crazy. This is ridiculous, right? Michelle nodded, tapping a paragraph with her pen. Legally, this isn't even enforceable. If they ever tried to sue you for breaching this, they'd have to reveal your wife's identity in court records, which defeats the whole purpose. And this clause here, no acknowledgement of your romantic relationship in any capacity, is absurd. What if you're at a public event together? Are you supposed to pretend you're strangers? That's exactly what it feels like, I admitted. But Lena keeps saying it's just how the industry works. Michelle leaned back in her chair. Look, I get the agency's perspective. They want to maintain her brand image, and that often means keeping personal lives out of the spotlight. But this document, it's poorly written and one-sided. If you sign this, you're giving up a lot of your rights with no benefit in return. I let out a heavy sigh. She's been working so hard for this. I don't want to be the reason she loses opportunities. Michelle's expression softened. I get it, but you have to protect yourself too. I'll reach out to the agency and ask for clarification. Maybe we can negotiate something more reasonable. I nodded, feeling a small weight lift off my shoulders. At least someone was in my corner. When I told Lena I consulted a lawyer, her reaction was colder than I expected. "Why did you do that?" she asked, her tone sharp. "Because this is a legal document," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "It's not just some casual agreement. I needed to know what I was signing." She crossed her arms, glaring at me. "You didn't trust me." "That's not it," I protested. "I just wanted to make sure I wasn't getting into something messy." "Well, now it's messy," she snapped. "You're making a big deal out of nothing, and it's already affecting my career. They've been passing me over for collaborations because they think you're not on board." I stared at her, stunned. How is this my fault? All I did was ask for time to make sure this was the right thing to do. "You're standing in the way of my dreams," she shouted, her voice breaking. That hit me like a punch to the gut. I thought about the countless hours I'd spent helping her set up her equipment, the money I'd poured into commissioning art and graphics for her channel, the nights I'd stayed up cheering her on when she doubted herself. "Do you really believe that?" I asked quietly. She hesitated, looking away. "I don't know." Over the next few weeks, our relationship grew colder. Lena buried herself in her work, streaming late into the night and avoiding conversations with me. When we did talk, it was strained, surface level. She stopped eating dinner with me, claiming she was too busy preparing for streams or collaborations. Even the small gestures of affection, quick hugs, playful teasing, faded away. I tried to bridge the gap. I cooked her favorite meals, left encouraging notes on her desk, even tuned into her streams to support her anonymously. But nothing seemed to make a difference. One night, I mustered the courage to ask, "Are we okay?" She glanced up from her laptop, her expression unreadable. "We're fine," she said flatly. But we weren't. A few days later, Michelle called with an update. "They haven't responded to my questions," she said. "Not a great sign. But honestly, I'd advise against signing this agreement. It doesn't protect you in any way, and it's not worth the risk." I relayed this to Lena that evening, bracing myself for another argument. "So you're just not going to sign it?" she asked, her voice icy. "I'm not signing something that could come back to bite me," I said firmly. "But that doesn't mean I don't support you. I'll do everything I can to help you succeed. Just not this." Her expression hardened. "If you don't sign it, they're going to keep holding you back. Do you understand that?" "I do," I said, "but I have to protect myself too." She stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked away. The days following our last argument were the quietest of my life. Lena and I moved through the house like strangers, our once lively conversations replaced by curt exchanges and awkward silences. She seemed to pour every ounce of her energy into her streams, her cheerful VTuber persona starkly contrasting the cold distance she showed me at home. Each time I heard her laughter drift through the walls, it felt like a reminder of the gap between us, a gap that had once been filled with shared dreams and unwavering support. I continued to check in, despite her aloofness. "How was your stream? Do you need help with anything?" But her answers were clipped, her tone indifferent. "Fine." "No, I'm good." Eventually, I stopped asking. Despite the strain between us, Lena's career was thriving. I couldn't help but feel a flicker of pride every time I saw her social media accounts grow or noticed her name trending among fans. She was collaborating with bigger creators, hosting live events, and even getting sponsorships. One evening, I opened her stream out of habit. The screen was alive with vibrant animations, her voice lively and charismatic. Fans flooded the chat with messages of support, showering her with virtual gifts. "Thanks for the love, everyone," she said with a bright laugh. "I couldn't do this without you." Her joy was genuine, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. Maybe I had been selfish, prioritizing my concerns over her dreams. But then I thought of the agreement, the one-sided clauses, the lack of protection for me, and reminded myself why I'd hesitated in the first place. Weeks turned into months, and the tension in our marriage didn't ease. I decided it was time to address the elephant in the room once and for all. "Lena, can we talk?" I asked one evening as she was setting up for a stream. She sighed, her hands hovering over her keyboard. "About what?" "About us." She paused, then turned to face me, her expression guarded. "I'm sorry if I've made things harder for you," I began. "I know how much this career means to you, and I've always been proud of everything you've accomplished. But this whole situation with the agency, it's made me feel like I don't matter in your life anymore. Like I'm just an obstacle to your success." Her eyes softened slightly, but she didn't respond immediately. "I didn't mean for it to feel that way," she said finally. "This is just everything I've worked for. And when you didn't sign, it felt like you were choosing yourself over me." "I wasn't choosing myself," I said gently. "I was choosing us. That agreement wasn't fair, and it put all the burden on me. I wanted to protect what we have, not ruin it." She looked down, her hands fidgeting in her lap. "I didn't think about it that way." For the first time in months, there was a glimmer of understanding between us. The agency never followed up on the agreement, and Lena's career didn't suffer as much as she feared. Her growth continued, and she adapted to the demands of the industry without the need for my signature. Our relationship took time to mend. Trust and communication had to be rebuilt, piece by piece. We started carving out time for each other again, sharing meals, watching movies, and talking about things outside of her streaming world. "I'm sorry," Lena said one night as we sat on the couch together, "for how I treated you, for making you feel like you weren't important." "I'm sorry too," I replied, "for not understanding how much pressure you were under. I never wanted to stand in the way of your dreams. I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose ourselves in the process." She nodded, her hand slipping into mine. For the first time in what felt like forever, we sat together in comfortable silence, the weight between us beginning to lift.